There's a secret world just outside the hospital walls where clinicians trade stethoscopes for startups. If you've ever wondered how someone goes from seeing patients to building the future of healthcare, you're in the right place. I'm Kayla, a PA on a mission to figure out what comes next. When I started researching careers in health tech, I found confusing job titles and zero clarity on how clinicians actually made the transition. So I went straight to the source, the people who already did it. Each week, we demystify a specific career path by someone who's already living it, whether it's from the bedside to the boardroom, the startup, or something completely different. Whether you're planning your exit, passively curious, or already working in health tech, this is your insider's guide. Welcome to corporate espionage. And today on the show, I am enthused to welcome Jordan Fisher. He cares very, very deeply about career advancement, just as I do. While he was working as a PA in head and neck surgical oncology, ENT, emergency medicine, and urgent care over the course of his career as a PA, he co-founded the Physician Assistant Blueprint, which was a platform that taught thousands of PAs how to manage their finances, beat burnout, and find their dream jobs. He's presented at PA programs nationwide. He's adjunct faculty, and then he did something that most PAs dream about, but few actually do. He left clinical practice entirely to become a medical science liaison at Carius, where he now educates providers on cutting-edge diagnostic testing. Full transparency, the PA Blueprint, as Jordan knows, was completely impactful for me when I came out of PA school, and it really affected everything that I know and the way that I see money and career strategy. So this is a really beautiful full circle moment, it feels. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, Jordan. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that, because it's easy to kind of forget that, my goal was to impact one person. And so it's like, sweet, we got one goal accomplished. So thank you for
100%.
saying that. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. The pleasure's all mine. So welcome to the show. So I feel that a lot of times I like to start with your journey into kind of becoming a PA, why you started there. And I do want to hear about that, but I'm also really eager to hear about your journey through your varied multi-specialty career as a PA, and how the PA Blueprint also came to be.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess it should show that I'm living the PA blueprint, meaning like I'm trying to do an experiment and figure out the things that I then want to pass on to other PAs. So it's, again, another good reminder hearing all that. But, I feel like it's the same story for most of us. It's like, figure what your passion is, like what really draws your interest in your undergrad degree. It's similar to my PA journey. I switched my major like 5 times, trying to figure out what the heck am I doing with my life. It's hard to figure out when you're 18. It's still hard at 35. But that's why you try and you fail and you go do new things. So if anything else, like side note, don't be afraid to make changes. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to try new things. Because if you've made it this far, especially if we're talking to a lot of PAs here, like you've already proven so much. So continue to have that attitude. Like I feel really bad. I don't. I want to empower PAs that like maybe have been in the same job for like 5 years, and like a lot of us would think of that as a good thing, and sometimes it is, but sometimes they're miserable and they're just afraid to make a change. And so change is good. Don't be afraid to change, and that's kind of how I've lived my life. So decided to be a PA, went into PA school. Funny enough, I actually got my acceptance call from the program I went to, University of New England, while I was interviewing to become a medical sales rep with a guy that was like would come to our office all the time, and I hit it off with. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm not doing this. And he's like, sweet, let's celebrate. And I was like, that's That's awesome. But yeah, became a PA and really tried to figure out where my niche was. What is like, what do I want? Is it like, I always want work-life balance, but then you want to be financially smart, and then you want to find a patient population that really resonates with you. You want a great clinic or great team you work with. And I experienced all that. But I still kind of was left wanting more. I think a lot of, again, speaking to PA specific, I don't think NPs feel this the same way just because they have a different career trajectory. But PAs, I've heard time and time again, and we've talked about this, you get to year 5, maybe 4, maybe 5, and you're kind of like, what next? It's like you can get new skills, you could try new specialties, but you really can't get a lot of promotions. You really can't get a lot of big pay bumps. You really can't like see this big future. And maybe I'm missing something, but I feel like certainly physicians, at least they're at such a high pay scale that there still are other opportunities and they can do things. Nurses in the nursing industry has done a phenomenal job. Like there's a CNO. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I wish there was a PNO, or CPO, excuse me, CPAO, whatever you want to call it. But like there's not that. And so that's what kind of led me on this new journey. And I was sitting right where you were, like, what the hell do I do? Like, but I went on Google and said, like, what do I do? And like this is still, well, I was also trying to do other things. So I had
Yeah.
the PA blueprint that Shane and I did, and that came from uh just wanting to pass along the information that I had learned throughout my journey. And I was lucky enough to learn about finances. Like in my surgical rotation, became obsessed with Mr. Money Mustache, and like learned a lot about
Classic.
financial independence and like how great that is. And that's not necessarily my goal, but my goal is to just be well educated and well informed and try to set myself up as great as possible. So like all that snowballed into creating a side company that is the PA Blueprint. But yeah, that's kind of been my journey from the PA side.
Yeah. I think that there is a lot to be said for anyone who is willing to accept change as a positive thing rather than a negative thing. Um, in recent conversations, I have reflected a lot on how often people get to a roadblock where they know in their gut that they need to change, and there are mostly emotions around fear and shame around that. Um,
Absolutely.
and being able to reframe that and identify them as positive things of like, that means that like I'm ready for more. That means I have the capacity for more. That means that like maybe I don't know myself well enough just yet. And that means that like I think that there is beauty in recognizing something that you're not meant for.
Hmm.
Recognize a person that you're, not meant to work with. And there is great like internal strength in reframing that. And I think a lot of us struggle kind of with that mindset at different points, but being able
Uh-huh.
to weave that throughout your entire journey and especially reflect on that as a whole, as a positive, is really, really huge. So thank you for
Uh-huh.
that. That's a great reminder, I think, for a lot of people. Um, I'm curious. I have always, right? So consuming the PA blueprint at such an early age was, like I said, hugely impactful for me. My situation was I came out of PA school and I didn't get a job for over 6 months, a little over 6 months. So I was just like shooting blanks left, right. But I had all this time. I had all this time to explore. I was bartending, I was babysitting, and I was doing a ton of yoga. When I finally landed a job, I had this like, oh my God moment where I realized that I was about to, have a paycheck that I had never experienced before. And I recognized that that was both a huge accomplishment and a huge responsibility.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
recognized that I was going to have a choice to figure it out on the fly and maybe make some mistakes and dread my student loans and like pay them down over the course of 30 years. Or I could double down, put on the student cap. I'm like, okay, I gave myself a couple weeks after I took the PANCE exam, and really double down to become a student again and learn something totally different. So that's where that resource came in. And so I've always imagined that, like, I felt that you and Shane, because Shane was your preceptor, right?
Hmm.
I'm like imagining this relationship evolving and growing, and you guys just being like, we have to do this.
Yeah, yeah, it was so much to digest there. I mean, I love what you said of like putting your student cap on again, because the the powers that be make this want to seem super, super complicated. And it certainly can be, but it also is so simple in so many ways. And so it's like, well, if I'm not in the finance world, I can't figure it out. And it's like, no, no, no. Dude, you know how to practice medicine. That is insanely hard. So it's like, if you can figure that out, you can figure out retirement accounts, you can figure out tax basics, you can figure out all this stuff. But you also made such a good point that at least the PA career, but also like the physician career and plenty of other careers, there's like this very, very distinct moment in your life. It's like getting married. All of a sudden your life changes. And that is when you get your first like real paycheck. And that may happen just after your first undergrad job, but it's not, it's very common in the medical world where all of a sudden you're just like blessed with all this money that you didn't have before. Unfortunately, it becomes very little very quickly. But like in the beginning, that's such a ripe time to really learn and figure out how you want to be with money, because it's easy to go off the rails very quickly. And that's kind of how Shane and I really touched bases, because he went off the rails and he wasn't being stupid. He was just like, oh, I'm going to get a nice apartment by
Uh-huh.
myself. And it's like, transportation, housing, food. And he's like, oh, then I ate out more. And it's like, quickly, it just gets out of control. And like, don't get
Yeah.
me started on plenty of classmates that go and lease an Audi or something. It's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's craziness. So I'm glad to hear that that hit you at the right time and inspired you to read and look at more, because that's really what the goal of it was, is like get these students in this very precious time and
Yeah.
hopefully like change their lives for the better.
Yeah.
So
So how did that go from conversation to concept?
it's funny. So I misspoke. Shane wasn't my preceptor. He was an adjunct professor for me. So we had
Oh,
class
okay.
together every week. And we actually didn't get along well in the beginning because like I was, it just stupid and learning and pushing back, and like that's not how it really is. And albeit I was very ill informed, but like
Sure.
quickly we worked through that and learned that we had a lot in common. Then we'd see each other at the gym and just be like, hey, and really it took reaching out to him after the fact, after I'd been in school, and just touching base. So before the PA Blueprint, I actually did a project on my own called PA Next Steps, which
I
was
remember
kind
that.
of the brainchild for this, in
Yeah.
that it was just like, here's all the things I wish I knew. But it was much more just like simple, focused things. Um, and then it turned into, wow, we can really snowball this into a lot more. And so that's where our relationship kind of came. It really just started from conversation. I had already written this book, so I kind of knew what it took. And, you can self-publish a book. It's not like I had
Hmm.
Random House publishing this or anything, but it was just like, yeah, throw this on the internet. And then it's like, oh, we could do this together. So we did some more stuff. And then you think you publish a book and that's the end of it, but no, you have to market it. You have to figure out what works. And so we really took to reaching out to and working with as many PA programs as possible to lecture and work with their students. And that's where this grew the most.
Yeah. So beyond the ebook, what other features of the PA Blueprint came to be?
So our biggest thing was lecturing, and so we really focused on what programs really care about the pants, right? And so we figured, or we focus on what part of our product covered the pants, and so that's when we got how we got in with PA programs. And then we from that developed. Probably our next biggest thing was what we called our application essentials. So it was going to the person that you were applying to all these jobs and saying, okay, how do we help these people? Well, here's some resume templates. Here's some cover letter templates. Here's what we call the clinical summary, so strategies to help differentiate yourselves. And then from that, we also coached people to get those jobs, to get a raise, to switch specialties, and also did some financial kind of coaching on, hey, what do you do with this paycheck? What is
Yeah.
this account? What is that account?
Okay. So in-person experiences, online experiences, remote coaching, oh, sorry, experiences. So all of this was with Shane. So as we are pretty accustomed to in the world of being a PA, this involved a partnership and like a relationship of trust and building together.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, and it was give and take, and that's the important thing for a lot of partnerships, and that's where a lot of partnerships can fail. Life is all stages, so sometimes I'd be doing a lot, and sometimes he'd be doing a lot, and then we'd flip flop, and but yeah, it was just a lot of trust and working together, and really just having the same goals of what we were looking for and how we were trying to help people.
Yeah. Was this like your first sort of foray into entrepreneurship at this level?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So it was, hey, I all of a sudden I have a lot of time. I was working doing shift work in the ER. And so when you're working, you're balls to the wall, but when you're off, and you don't have kids, you don't have a dog. I had a girlfriend that's now my wife, but I had a lot of time, and that
Uh-huh.
was during COVID. And so I was like, okay, what do I do with this? And so that's where the entrepreneurship kind of came up. And I was like, at my core, and I'm like reconciling with this all the time. How do I like continue to make this? It's just like I love to teach and mentor. And obviously I need the experience to be able to do that. But it was, okay, what experience do I have? How do I give that, or how do I
Yep.
use that to help others?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think that you guys did a great job, and you continue to. That's, I would say, one of my like core beliefs as well, is that I think that we get so much better when we build the muscle of being able to teach others.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how you get smarter, right? That's how you get better at your job. I mean, if your
Yeah.
job is, I mean, as a in medicine, you're a teacher, right? In my job as an MSL, I'm a teacher, right? And so the better you can teach others, the more you can simplify concepts, really get it in your head and translate that well to helping others.
Yeah. So, as a first-time entrepreneur, I'm curious, what were some of the things that you felt like you were really well prepared for? And what were some of the things that were extraordinarily difficult and made you feel like a total beginner?
Oh God, everything made me feel like a total beginner. I mean, the internet is very helpful. You can figure out,
Yeah.
oh, like how do I make an LLC? Like not necessarily that you know why, but you're like, I'm gonna do this and see how that goes. But I think my what helped was we were just amped. We are super stoked
Yeah.
to do this and had the energy and the time to do it. That is the key. You need the drive to do whatever. And, I mean, you hear this about entrepreneurs all the time. You have to have that fire to get it started. So that's what you need to start. But we didn't know anything. And so really it was how do we get this out there? How do we get people interested? How do we monetize it, right? How do we make this worth our time? Because it's great and we put in a bajillion hours for free, but at a point you're like, I also have a regular job, so I want to have this help that. I mean, and that's all of our goals. I mean, we all want something that's profitable that also helps people and brings us joy. I mean, that is what you want in entrepreneurship. So, um, like I said, we really figured out that working with institutions regarding pants stuff was like a really good niche and where people would want to spend money. I mean, we talked about this before. Uh, our target market is awesome, but our target market also doesn't have a lot of
Yeah.
money. nor do I want to take that money from them. So I can't be like,
Right.
here's a $5,000 course, or I'd feel really bad doing that. So it was
Yep.
a unique challenge of figuring out how to monetize it in a responsible and sustainable way.
Yeah. What are some of the things about the multiple hats that you had to wear that challenged you specifically?
I think I still deal with that challenge now, and it's funny you have on here like, or one of the things is like, what questions do I have from you? One of the things that I deal with hats, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this too, is like, how do you ever feel like enough? Like I can juggle the hats, but it's just like at a point it does lead to burnout. At a point it's like, why am I doing this? Reflection is everything. So like, how do you balance having so many issues and so many things you want to go into and study, or try out, and most of them don't work out. How do you balance all those hats to feel like enough, to feel like, okay, now I can slow down, now I can speed up? What do you do with that? Because I'm still figuring out how to do it.
Yeah, I that's a really hard question. The first thing that comes to mind is recently I've been having an ongoing conversation as I'm navigating my own potential career transition and just kind of looking outside of the lens of what is, what is a PA, who am I as a PA, how do I see myself, and like how else do I want to contribute? And part of that has been met with attempts to create things that like generally lead nowhere or that I maybe won't reap the benefits of for years down the line. And I think that means sometimes I need to put out 5 resumes in a day. Sometimes that means I need to like do 2 hours of self-reflection on what I want to do. Sometimes that means I need to spend 10 hours with Canva designing, the branding for this podcast. Sometimes I need to get on LinkedIn and like send 25 DMs to people and like see where that lands. And I think that with a goal in mind, there are so many little individual tasks. I've been having this ongoing conversation with someone where I've been talking about how sometimes it is really easy to feel like lost in the weeds because a lot of those tasks don't have rewards, and trying to reframe that from input output to like, the goal here, right, is to essentially lay a foundation where when the right opportunity comes, when you get that email back from the person you've been waiting to hear from, when you suddenly have the idea for the product that you actually want to build, did you do the foundational work? So I've been trying to reframe all of these things that I might not be great at, but I know that I have to do as bricks.
Mhm.
So my goal every single day is like, did I lay one brick today? Did
Mhm.
I lay one brick in the foundation? And if I can continue rather than focus on like, oh my gosh, the house isn't built. Like, what am I doing? I've been at this for 6 months and the house still isn't there. Well, no, but like, would you want to be in a house where the foundation isn't solid, where like you didn't take the time to oversee the build of every single square inch of the foundation of what dream you're building? So I think that reframing from reward to really, really foundational work, like did I stretch that muscle today? Did I build a muscle that I ultimately know will benefit me in the long term, is how I've been trying to reframe.
That's
Does
great.
that
I
answer your
love that.
question?
Yeah. No, that's super helpful, and I need your therapist number if you didn't come up with that on your own, because that's a great way to think about it, because it's so
Yeah.
easy to just be lost in the weeds, like you said. Like, was
Yeah.
that worth it? Why did I do that? Oh, look at this shiny thing.
Yeah. I think I struggle a lot with when when I don't see the results that I thought I was going to get, I question myself. and I question the work that I put in, and I question, did I do a good enough job? And I question, am I really meant to be doing this? And I think that the difference that you see in people who achieve the outcomes versus people who don't is like the people who actually get to where they want to go are the people who didn't give up when you hit that threshold, that inflection point of like, oh, I'm about to fail, or I did fail. And even though I did, I kept laying the bricks,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've heard so many, you hear anecdotally, like when you go into the world, the corner of the internet of financial independence and of real estate and of like business building, that usually the big break comes after you hit rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, did you hold yourself to just the standard of showing up and just the standard of continuing to do the work that ultimately will get you where you need to go, even if it's not sexy?
Mm-hmm. Well said. Human brain is weird. We're so good at beating ourselves up. I think I'm really good at it, but sounds like we all are. Do you think
For
hunter
sure.
gatherers like beat the heck out of themselves if they like didn't kill something? They're like, God, I suck.
I don't
Like
know.
maybe we've been doing it forever, or maybe it's a common day thing. I don't know.
Right. Well, here's the thing, right? There's a difference in like not accomplishing something like getting your food might lead to death or loss of limb or life.
Yeah.
So there were real world consequences, and I think a lot of things, sometimes that we do truly do have real world consequences, but a lot of the things that we're talking about are like extra credits.
Yep.
Um, and of course, we beat ourselves up about them the most,
Yeah. Equally so.
for
Just as much
sure.
as life or limb.
Yeah. So obviously, we are both people who have the thirst for more knowledge, for advancing ourselves as human beings. We're willing to look inward, and we're willing to try and help others along this journey. Obviously, there was a point where you looked inward into yourself as a PA, and you had the realization of like, can't I can't do this. I need to start thinking differently. I would love some insight into where your mindset was at and what steps you did before you got to that point to make sure that you were sure in your decision.
Mm. So I think it got to, again, we talked about 4 different specialties in 7 years, like the poster child for trying to switch up and seeing if this is that. And a lot of it was great, and a lot of it was like, meh. And I think I just got to the point in that current role where I really did what, like, I tried another experiment. I was like, I want to try a big institution. I want to try like a one-on-one situation with a surgeon or like with a clinician, and he was the man. I love and still keep in contact with the doctor, or the surgeon I worked with. He was phenomenal. Great human being. I worked with a great team that had all been there for many years. So I did all the work to get the job that I thought would bring me the joy I needed. And it was still like, man, it's really hard to afford my mortgage in a high cost of living area. And sure, I made the decision to buy a house. In retrospect, I don't know if that was the right call or not, but it's what I did. And it's just like, what else? How can I make uh the hard and insanely emotional work I was doing in head and neck oncology, like, this isn't giving me the financial benefit that I need to have less stress in other parts of my life. So I was just kind of like, okay, I need something more. And so that's when I was like, okay, maybe the PA role is limiting in what I want to do. And so that's where, like I said earlier, I just started Googling what else was out there. But that kind of came to the point where it's like, okay, I've tried all these different jobs. I still have to worry about finances, even though I'm very smart about finances. Like, I'm not frivolous at all. I mean, I'm more frivolous now that I'm older and married and all that, but I still wasn't stupid in it, and I'm educated, and it's like I still can't get ahead. And I'm not probably not gonna be able to.
Right.
So that's what made me make the switch? How did I prepare for the switch? Well, it was similar to what you're doing. I reached out to a ton of people. I did a lot of research, and I really kind of rested on those bricks that I had laid and didn't even think of that's what they were. It was, I'm really good at networking. I'm really good at reaching out to people. I'm really good at interviewing. I'm really good at talking to people. So it's just like all that kind of snowballed into, okay, I'm going to utilize these skills to move on to something else. And for me, what I found was this MSL role. And I feel like that's the number one you see when you like look at PA
Yeah.
transition jobs.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so like
definitely.
that's why I chose it. I was like, hey, I love to teach. I love to educate. I love to talk with people. This should be a great role for me.
How has that decision played out?
Uh, I think it's good. I'm very happy I did it. It's been a huge identity shift to go from I'm a PA to I'm not a PA. I
Yeah.
treat and help patients to I don't treat and help patients directly. Um, it's gone from right upper quadrant pain, cholecystitis to I'm forgetting so much. Like, you have to be so on your game all the
Yeah.
time, and it's like I'm forgetting stuff. I just did another Panry LA yesterday, and I was like, "Ugh, crap, I'm losing it." So
Oh
it's
my
like all those
gosh.
things have been super, super, super hard to deal with, and do mental gymnastics around. Is this okay?
Yeah.
Um, I'm in a very unique role, in that I fall, and this is kind of niche and won't mean a lot, but like I am part of the commercial team. So I am part of the sales team, which is unique for an MSL. And there are a lot of pros and cons with that. But like most MSLs, want to pride themselves on being science, on being like having scientific conversation with clinicians, and like using that to make the product better, make their practice better, make them more informed, all the things. And when you're on the commercial side of things, a lot of times you just feel like a sleazy salesman, for lack of a better term. And that's not to say anyone is or anything like that. It's just like that's the nature of the beast and how you're treated.
Hmm.
And having been the person on the other side, like, yeah, I didn't want to talk to salespeople. I was busy, and like I get it. But it is not a fun reality at times.
Certainly. So I want to go more into that, but I want to zoom out a little bit first because I would love to say that you decided that you didn't want to practice clinically anymore, and the next day you woke up and you were an MSL. And you were like, okay, this is this is it. I'm here.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know. But I'm interested, I think a value that I really want to bring to a lot of the listeners is hearing more about the journey of actually getting your foot in the door. What is important? What is not important? What did you think would be important? And turns out it was totally useless. Um, Talk me through your journey and your, like, in your exploratory phase and true transition phase. What did that look like?
Mhm. Well, getting a job is seemingly the same across a number of industries. It's putting yourself out there. It's networking, like meaning like reaching out to people and just asking about their job. It's not saying like, "Hey, will you recommend me for this?" Like
Sure.
it is trying to learn about other people, what they do, whether they work or don't work at the company you're trying to work for. But it's just learning and talking to people. So like that was super valuable in figuring out, was this the right move for me? And also to get some leads of like, hey, maybe you want to look into this, maybe you want to talk to this person, blah 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 blah. So like that was super important. Second, I had to really again understand what the role is so that I could figure out what in my experience translates well for that, because any company is taking a risk on you making this transition. So you have to prove that you're worth that risk. And so for me, it's like, okay, if my job is to get in front of clinicians, talk to them, understand the science, uh, pitch your product, you're doing that no matter what. It's like, okay, for me, I thought about, well, when I was in emergency medicine, I had to do all the consults. I had to pitch my patients to all the subspecialties. I had to talk to a lot of people. I had to be friendly, nice, build those relationships, deal with a lot of hardship, a lot of yelling at me for being an idiot for things I didn't do, you know, all that stuff. So that really translated well. Um, the fact that I was involved as an adjunct professor and I had the PA blueprint. It showed like a business mindset, an entrepreneurial mindset, public speaking ability, all those things. So I kind of used that all to parlay to like, here's why I'm not the average Joe Schmo trying to change. Here's my experience. Now, I wasn't super well versed in reading a lot of studies. Like we look at studies, but we're not involved much in study design. That's not part of our curriculum and whatnot. So
Right.
I had to learn that, but also as a PA, you're trained to learn so much and learn fast and all that. Like
Yeah.
if you ever switch to specialty, like that is no joke. So it's like, hey, I've did that 4 different times. Granted, urgent care to emergency medicine, it's uh, not the biggest switch, but like going from urgent care to head and neck oncology, that's a big switch, So it's all like showing what you've done and how that really goes into a role where it's making relationships, learning the science, explaining the science, making it simple, and putting yourself out there. So those were the things that I used to do that. So really, it was network with others, learn my skills and my pitch for the role,
Mm-hmm.
practice interviewing. The interview process is pretty unique for an MSL because it's not just, you interview with a lot of people, but then you always have to, or almost always have to give a big presentation.
Mm.
Um, so like learning, I botched my first one. So like learning how to get better from that. So all those things were how I did the role or got the role. And so it's goes to show you, I did not wake up. It took months and months, and it took like months of hard work and like getting turned down and like, shoot, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I won't do this, to like, no, let's try again, get back on the horse. Let's be better this time.
Yeah.
So it was a process.
That's great. It is not a unique experience, like you said, I think across industries to have a huge learning curve when you are going through the discovery and interview process for a new role. And it makes you really uncomfortable. And like you said, makes you have to be like a beginner all over
Uh-huh.
again.
Uh-huh.
But like you said, staying curious and staying open to the challenges that it presented will change the trajectory for sure. So you discussed the ways that you aligned your personal experience with the role of an MSL. I'm wondering if you can give some insight into what do you think on a broad stroke makes a good MSL?
Emotional intelligence. You have to be able to read the room, read a clinician, know that, hey, maybe this isn't the day we talk about this. Or like, wow, they seem really, really interested. Maybe I'm going to make an ask of them today. So it's really knowing about reading people, because your job at the end of the day is to build relationships and build trust. And if you are just like pushy, you don't read the room, you don't make their life better, or make their job easier, or make like pique their interest, like all those things, then you're just not somebody they want to talk to. And I don't blame them. I, as a clinician, wouldn't want to talk to somebody that's just like ramming something down my throat. And so I think that is huge. Some people hate public presentations. Do not be an MSL if you don't like presenting. Like that one's pretty easy. Maybe you don't have to like it, but if you hate it, don't do it. Um, and then, like, I, I don't know. You just have to want to learn the science, which again, at least from a PA perspective, if you've made it this far, if you wanted to learn about medicine, you're going to find something within the industry side of things that really piques your interest and you want to
Hmm.
learn more about. And that thirst for learning translates to an ability to present the data and educate others in the best way possible.
Hmm. Okay, that's a really good overview. And I don't think that we've talked for the listeners yet if you can define what an MSL medical science liaison actually does. Like, what is the role?
Sometimes I don't know. But I'd say at its core, a medical science liaison's job is to be up to date and abreast on the data of their products and competing products and just the space in general. And their job is to communicate that to clinicians. And clinicians oftentimes are learning, updating their practice, but they're also providing feedback about what would be helpful, what data they want to see, what direction may be helpful to head. So your goal is ultimately that back and forth between clinicians. So in general, you're not trying to sell them by like walking in the door and giving, like trying to just like get that first face-to-face time. They're coming to you wanting data, wanting information, wanting updates for their practice. Your job is to give that to them and also learn from them about things that you can do to pass along to your company. I would say
Hmm.
like at its core, that's kind of my understanding of it. Some may say different. Um, how that interaction, how that passing along of data, all that stuff ultimately, uh, whether it happens or doesn't, is kind of to be determined, but like
Yeah.
that is at the core of the job or the role. And so again, you may be doing that in a one-on-one Zoom conversation. You may be meeting them in their office. You may be doing a dinner presentation at a conference to a bunch of different people in the space. It really, that forum will change a lot.
Yeah. So I think a key differentiator here that makes clinicians in particular such great MSLs is because we speak the language already and we can
Exactly.
proactively predict questions that they might have, concerns that they might have, and almost have an idea before you walk in the room. Like when you're in the ER and you need to admit a patient, you know the things that you need to say to make sure that the hospitalist service doesn't say, no, check another blank. No, I want a blank first. You know how to prime that conversation to go into it with, a clear, level-headed mind and like educate yourself enough to be able to communicate well.
You are your customer, you know? At the
Yeah,
core, you may not be the exact same specialty, the exact same experience, but you are the customer. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot more PAs and NPs come into this field where it's traditionally pharmacists. And again, they have uh, they have similar clinical experience in that they're working with clinicians all the time, understand the
yeah,
conundrums, but also a lot are PhDs, and that's not patient facing. And so uh, there can be some differences in how we approach things. So I think that's why you're seeing much more PAs in this space.
certainly. And then I'm also curious when you are taking feedback from the clinicians that you are talking to, from the stakeholders, so to speak, that you're talking to, back to your team, what are the departments? I guess, it might be just specifically for your role, but in general, what are the departments that you are interfacing with in the company?
Usually, again, my role, I'm going to speak in generals here, not specific to my role. So usually you're speaking to the medical affairs team as a part of that. And that's the part of the team that you are. Now you're working with marketing teams and sales teams, one to like get those meetings, get those interactions from sales, and also educate them and help them in ways to get customers to you, right? So that they have an understanding of like what are the pain points for clinicians that's going to make them want to talk to us or the company.
Sure.
And it's also working with the marketing teams to figure out, how do we get their attention? What are again the pain points? What is the data that is most useful that clinicians want to see? And how do we highlight that?
Okay. Makes sense. So you're in this new role. You've gone from a place of being like, "Okay, what's next? I'm a little tired of this. I'm a little bit burnt out." Um, and given that one of your missions with PA Blueprint is to fend off burnout and to avoid it, do you feel like this career transition has been successful for you in fulfilling that?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I am still learning about this industry and where I fall in and where my skills suit me best. I think you can always do better, and always, my problem is I always want more and better and all
Yeah.
the things. Um, I think like whenever I have a hard day, it's like, well, at least I didn't have to call a patient on Friday night and tell them they had cancer, which like,
Yeah.
I have those conversations burned in my head and I want them burned in my head because it's a really great reference point to
Yep.
go back to. So I think um, like patient care is extremely tough. And unfortunately, as PAs, we often times aren't rewarded the way I believe we should be. Um, so do I miss that lack of reward? No, I feel like I'm extremely well compensated for what I do. But I still think I'm figuring out where I work best. And I'm also like still learning the job. Like I haven't been doing it for like I've only been doing it for a year and a half. And as you know, like any role usually takes you at least a couple years to like really be like, okay, like my wheels are greased. I got it
For
going. So
sure.
I'm still learning a ton.
Yeah. Good to know. I think a lot of us want to believe that it is truly as easy as jumping ship and entering a new industry or a new role or a new subspecialty. And when we get to the other side, we often find that the grass is greener. The grass is always greener. And I was having a conversation with a nurse that I met at Health who was reflecting to me on how many nurses that she talks to who say like, I want to do a non-clinical role. I want to get out of the bedside because I'm so burnt out of being at the bedside, of doing patient care, of all these things. And they get into a role where like they get just as burnt out.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's something we all face all the time. And yeah, you can get a lot more money and it still doesn't feel like enough. You can get a lot less time with patients and still be burnt out because you have to deal with other crap. Like work is work for a reason. And like some people absolutely love their jobs 100%, but most people don't. You can love it 80%, 70%, like whatever percent. But like, nothing's ever going to be perfect. And that's where it comes down to the reflection, the big picture, the things you're talking about. Because otherwise, you'll still, I mean, anything can drive you crazy no matter what.
right. What are some of the things that you like to do in your daily, monthly, yearly life that help you prevent burnout from coming as quickly or as heavily, um, and kind of keep you focused on your path?
I don't think I'm as good at this right now. But I think it's for me it's traveling with my wife. Like we love to do that. It's exercise, it's the usual things. I'm trying to be much more conscious about creating traditions, whether it's holiday traditions, it's
Yeah.
weekend trips with family, with friends, with whatever. It's creating recurring things that happen every year that help break up the monotonous life. So like that's one of the things that I've been like thinking about and trying to build recently is like I have a lot of great friends. I'd still like to have more. I still could be better about keeping in touch with some and not others. I could always spend more time with my wife. We could always be, but it's like how do we create these things that we always have to look forward to? So
Rhythm.
that's yeah, the rhythm. Yeah, I like that. So that's I'd say that's like the first thing that comes to my mind and the thing that I'm like consciously trying to build right now.
I love that. It's really difficult. I'm in a place now where I don't live around any family. So that's like a very unique way of kind of navigating like a traditional annual routine, annual rhythm, where I have to like make sure, am I off for holidays? Am I off for a birthday? Am I off for that trip that we normally take every year? So being intentional about that, I think, is really, really huge. I haven't thought about that in a while either.
Mhm.
Really
Oh, that
haven't.
that reminds me. Have you ever read that article by Wait But Why? I forgot the title of the article, but it's like very much it breaks down like how many times you actually have something left in your life. How many winters do you have left? How many times you can eat dumplings left? How many times seeing your parents do you have left based on the current age? It's eye-opening, but that's also been helpful to think, okay, like, holy cow, like I'm bored, things aren't going on right now. It's like that makes whatever exciting thing you have coming up that much more special that you like are
Yeah.
consciously thinking like this is a memory that I want to keep. Let's enjoy my time here.
I have not read that. Um, I might burst into tears if I
Oh yeah,
read
it'll make
that.
you cry. It'll make you cry, but it's so good. It's so good. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do. I'll drop that in the show notes as well if the listeners want to listen or
Yeah.
read it.
One of my
I
best friends
I
reads it every year on his birthday, and it's just like a constant reminder of the preciousness
yeah.
of time.
Two things like that for me. Number one, Being Mortal. That's a book that I try to read every year. Have you read it?
I haven't. Sounds like I need to.
Jordan.
Shame.
I'm literally gonna send you a copy. I've purchased like almost a dozen copies for people in my life because I think it is such important. I call it required reading. And I like to say for anyone who is a patient or a provider, everyone.
Every
Um,
single person.
and yeah, it's just like so good, so fantastic. It's such a nice it's a take on mortality that really takes you back to ground zero and makes you kind of reflect on like what is really important. What am I getting caught up in that maybe I shouldn't be?
Hmm.
And how do I want to approach mortality from the lens of like being less selfish? I also think that I think a lot of us in healthcare in general have a unique lens on being and on existing because we're exposed to a lot of hardship. Um, I've certainly been inundated with a lot more death, dying, and serious illness than I ever thought that I would at this point in my life. And all of those things have made me live my daily life in a way that if I were to die tomorrow, like I know that I'd be cool. Um, I think a lot of the things that I do, like when when I was in PA school in our final year, I lost my best friend, my classmate, someone who would have been a PA today, randomly. Like he had a medical crisis and he died within 48 hours. And it was like,
Oh
oh
gosh.
my God, life is actually that precious. And we were 22, 21. It was insane. And it really was a wake up call to the preciousness of every single day. I think that's part of also my motivation personally for like why I like to push boundaries of, what does it mean to be a PA? What does it mean to be a human? What are the limits of how I can contribute individually and collectively to healthcare, to improving people's lives, to just like being a spark of joy, and encouraging someone else to go down that path of self discovery as well?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know what could be more motivating than that. And also, like, such a sad but powerful reminder of, like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
have a savings account. Sure, set yourself up, but, like, what do you truly have to lose?
Yep.
So,
Wow. Okay. Well, we're gonna maybe file this episode under like self motivation, personal discovery, personal growth instead of like career development, business, healthcare. It's good. I think that that's something that like sets our industry apart is that typically we are willing to look past um the like normal lens of how people view mortality and like how much we remember that like sometimes you really don't need to take things that seriously, like memento mori. Did we miss anything? I feel like we've
uh,
done a really good job.
yeah, no, I wanted one plug, and I think you'd
Hmm.
appreciate this. And I was just thinking about like where you are and like where I was previously, and urgent. Obviously, you're in urgent care,
Hmm.
and I was there before. And I want to make sure we make a plug for the urgent care people because that job is so hard, but many people think it's just like I've heard all kinds of negative names for it. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that you are just walking around landmines all the time. You're trying to sniff out disasters before they're too obvious, because if they're obvious, they wouldn't be there. It's people not intentionally, but trying to trick you. It's an extremely hard role, and there's nothing worse than calling the ER and they're pushing back, and it's like, you have no idea what I'm looking at right now. I know what I'm doing. So kudos to you. It's just a super hard job. And I want to remind everyone, I even need to remind myself at times of like, don't hate on the urgent care people. They are saving you so, so, so much. So if you see someone and they may have missed something, give them some grace, because that job is so hard, and it's so easy for subspecialists to be like, how do they not know this? And it's like, I've seen a laryngologist miss a tongue cancer. Like, things happen. We're all human. So just uh, give the urgent care people some grace.
Sincerely, to urgent care PAs.
Yeah, yeah. File this under for urgent care.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, urgent care it's a trip. It's the trenches for sure. I think I saw like 44 people yesterday in a
Not healthy.
12-hour shift. And I had so many complicated patients. And like you have to do all your documentation for every single one of those people. Um, had a couple of ER transfers in the mix, but had like multiple complicated patients that, yeah, it's a really, really hard job. I think a lot of times too, like we sometimes get flack for referring out or like referring to the ER, but urgent care is set up to be not an ER. Like there are intentional decisions that went into withdrawing any further intervention ability. Like we don't have stat labs for that reason. We don't have my urgent care doesn't even have nurses anymore. So we very rarely start lines or give fluids because we like the PAs and NPs and docs, like we don't have time to do that. There's so many things that are strategically set up that way. And yeah, sometimes that comes across as like we didn't want to. Um,
Yeah, it looks like it can be like laziness. And it's like, no, no,
yeah,
no, no. It's not that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I
Patient
also
safety.
think, yeah, I think that urgent care and ER people, regardless of where you are in the system, whether you're a nurse, a PA, an NP, anything, um, and especially ER docs, like we are a very unique and dynamic crew. And I think that there is a lot of visibility to each other of like, oh, I see you. I see what you're doing. Um, I think that we are really adaptable. And I think that we are perfectly positioned to transition to non-clinical roles because of how much we deal with on a daily basis and how much like unknown we face in that role. Even if the role is defined and you know what you're going to do, you never really know what to expect.
hmm
And there are so many bumps in the road. So,
Yeah, I think every clinician should spend time in those fields, because everything will seem easy after that. Every single
yeah.
job will seem so easy after that. It's crazy. It really
Yeah, it
warps
gives
you.
so much perspective. Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. Okay, I have a question for you. If you were to go back and give pre-MSL Jordan a piece of advice, what would it be?
It's a tough one. Well, I think I, in the beginning, the goal is to just get in. It's such a hard transition to make. So it's don't give up, persist. It will work out as long as you keep at it. So I would tell myself that, because there was a time that I really took my foot off the gas pedal. Um, and now my advice is find like what really interests you. There's so much out there. And if like Alzheimer's is in your family and you're really interested in Alzheimer's, like maybe that's the space you should go into, because not only are you well positioned from your experience, but you also are working with something that is like near and dear to your heart. It's the same thing that I was trying to look for. It's like, what patient population really resonates with me? Like my wife is everything labor and delivery. It's babies, it's new moms. Like that is her population. And she will always have a job around that because she's found out that's like what brings her the most joy. I thought that cancer patients would do that. And I, those people are awesome. I loved working with cancer patients, but like at the end of the day, it's like when you haven't heard from them in a while, it's not because they're all doing better, at least not in head and neck. So it
Yeah.
was like that was really hard for me. So it's like my goal has always been like find what really resonates with you. And so like that's where I'm sure my journey will take me in the future is like what is that next thing that resonates with me? Or at least that's like the high I'm always trying to chase.
And is the PA blueprint still chugging along?
It is for 2 more months. Then
Oh,
I'll
say more. Well, can you
yeah.
say more?
Well, I think it's just we're at a time. Shane and I at our time in our lives, excuse me, where we don't have time and we have enough interests in other areas, like him being his family that is just grew and is
Yeah.
obviously taking up a ton of his time, and me being in a new role and exploring other things. It's just kind of like we don't have a ton of time for it. But that doesn't mean I'm not available. That doesn't mean I don't want to help new PAs. That doesn't mean I don't want all of them to reach out to me all the time. I'm still that, but it's just that project is kind of coming to an end, and it's easy to feel like, oh, that was a failure, but that laid a heck of a lot of bricks. So thank you for
Oh
putting it
my
that way,
gosh.
because
Yeah.
that was an amazing experience, and I wouldn't change a thing. Unless it
Yeah.
made me $1 million, that would have been nice. But so,
Right.
anyways,
Right. Right. Maybe
yep.
next time. Definitely
Yeah,
next time.
yeah.
I revisited the book a couple days ago just to like kind of remind myself of the headspace that I was in when I read it. And it was I, you'd be surprised how I don't know when the last time you revisited it, but most of the information is still like very accurate and applicable. I know we've talked about before, and you're like, oh yeah, but things have changed so much, and like they really haven't changed that
Yeah.
much. For
Numbers
when
have
that was put
changed,
out.
buckets have changed, but like the core
Right.
concepts, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. So that's a great segue into thanking you for coming on to the podcast and having this um, unexpectedly deep conversation with me. It was nice to change it up a little bit and to kind of go deeper. I think sometimes we are really drawn to things that are flashy, and that distracts us from really reflecting inwards and having the hard conversations with ourselves too. Um, if the listeners want to reach out to you about anything that you've done or you might do or get your insight on something, where can they find you?
Probably LinkedIn is the best place. So Jordan Fisher, is my LinkedIn thing. I think it's
Cool.
got my face on there. Um, yeah, check out the PA Blueprint if you'd like. I feel like for you it was the right thing at the right time, and I hope there's plenty of people out there listening where it's the right thing at the right time. Um, so yeah, feel free to check it out. No pressure.
I'll put the link to Jordan's LinkedIn as well as the PA Blueprint website in the show notes for very easy accessibility. If you want to reach out to me, I'm Kayla Bassett on LinkedIn. You can find me there as well as its.kla.b on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Corporate Espionage. Please remember to give us 5 stars and follow us and listen every week for another episode. And if you are a clinician who sounds a little bit like either Jordan and I, and you don't want to stick to, the box that your title keeps you in, and you are committed to evolving yourself as a human, evolving yourself as a professional, and are endlessly curious about what else is out there, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Tune in next week for another one of these chats and have a good one. Thanks for coming out, Jordan.
Kayla, you're the best. Thank you so much for doing this for everyone out there. This is super, super helpful. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep building those bricks.
Awesome. Will do. All right. We'll see ya.